Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Putt.
Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome back to First Contact Radio. Today is Wednesday, the 6th of July, right here, Wednesday, the 6th of July. Just like yesterday, our sun sign is in Cancer, our moon sign is in Leo. That means we are dealing with the elements of fire and water. Fire and water, fire in the unconscious mind from Leo, all about creativity. We have this creativity surging through us. And then we have our imagination there to temper it so that we can channel this creativity in a way that's productive. And our conscious mind, the charioteer, being hit by all kind of emotions. We know that Cancer, being a water sign, is a sign of emotions, feelings. So we want to be able to go through the world where we're not bounced around by every feeling that hits us. So we need to put our armor on. The armor of God is the armor we need to put on because the emotions that hit us are emotions from all over the place. Emotions, as we know, can be very deep. If you think of emotions as being in the realm of water, and that realm of water, like the ocean, sometimes the water can be very shallow, sometimes it can be deep. The deeper the water, the more opportunity that there's something buried down further that we're not aware of. So when those emotions come to the surface, sometimes they can be quite a lot to deal with because we've had them buried or we didn't know that they even existed. So that's the thing with emotions. Okay, so we have this emotional mindset. The conscious mind is in the emotional realm, and the unconscious mind is the fiery realm. And think about if you have a pot of water on a stove. Okay, the pot of water represents the conscious mind, and underneath it you got the fire, the unconscious mind, and it's lit. Well, it can eventually boil that water. It can make it warm, first of all, so we can use it to make soup, tea, or anything usable. Or it can boil that water, and then we use it for other things. And it can also make that water into steam, where we can use it for things further than that. So lots of different uses for water depending on the way in which it's utilized, depending on how that fire works. The aspects for today coming up, well, we've just had a trine with Saturn. So Saturn is encouraging us to find discipline. Discipline, with the idea of discipline, is about focusing. Okay, discipline is not about telling someone they're bad. It's not about punishing somebody. Discipline is a way in which we focus. We discipline ourselves, maybe to practice some good habits. So discipline is a way of focusing. So that's what it's saying. So when we see this sign of Saturn, we just think of the keyword discipline. We have to focus, discipline ourselves to do and utilize our fire a little bit better. And then at 3:17 p.m., Venus, our imagination, is going to be in the mix with Venus as well. So, or excuse me, Mars and Venus. So Mars is going to energize, that fire of Mars is going to energize Venus, the creativity. And then tonight, Mercury is going to have an opportunity to be able to go into a conjunct position or a conversation with the emotions, with the conscious mind, figuring out how we're going to communicate. So towards the end of the day, as we're winding down, we have an opportunity to think back and maybe consider how we might use our communication based on what we've learned from today, with our imagination, with our focusing our energy. The moon phase itself is 5.8% of the way full. We'll be at the full moon on the 19th of July. Before we know it, it will be here. This year is moving really fast. The Jewish calendar is the last day of a month, the month of Sivan. So today would be the 30th Sivan. Tomorrow we're moving into the month of Tammuz. The daily thought for today is carrying them with you. There are so many ways to love another as yourself, but there is one simple way. When you love others as yourself, wherever you go, they are there with you. Let me say this one again, it's a good one. There are so many ways to love another as yourself, but there is simply one way. When you love others as yourself, wherever you go, they are there with you. And over at Space Weather Solar One's at 326.3 kilometers per second, our planetary K index is quiet in the one range. That large gash across the sun seems to have even increased. It's going all the way from the far left side of the sun well past the middle. If it keeps going, it's going to actually split this sun in half. Looks like it's on the way to doing that right now. So very interesting. You could see here in this graphic, a little bit more about how the wind's coming off of that large gash that's opening up there. M-class flare and X-class flare are both at 1%. Geomagnetic storm activity is on the upcrease, going from 5 all the way to 40%, so it's making a big jump. That's in the mid-latitudes. In the upper latitudes, from 5 to 50%. So we're going to definitely see an increase in the energies around us. So not only, does Leo bring that energization to us on one level personally, but in the energy around us in the cosmos, we're also going to be hit with a dose as well. So today we need to process all of that energy that's flowing through us, but remember, we're processing it through the channel of emotions. So we want to look at our emotions, don't let ourselves get caught off guard, put our armor on. So when the emotions hit us, and think to our, a good rule of thumb is the whole idea where you like count to 10 when something happens, think it through, because often we have a tendency to want to react rather than respond. Reacting is something happens and there's an immediate reaction to what happened. We get hit with something that causes us, our emotional buttons to be pushed, and we react. Reacting doesn't always get the job done. Sometimes we have to take time, take a deep breath, count to 10, and then respond with an action that is appropriate. And a response sometimes is a lot more effective than a reaction. Does this make sense? Okay, that brings us to our UFO news. It is up now. Here we go.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. So today I've got 3 stories UFO related. The first one, we're talking about Jupiter. Juno, approaches movie of Jupiter and the Galilean moons, July 5th. NASA Jupiter photos can be found right here. It says you probably already know that Juno probe is orbiting Jupiter right now, analyzing it, and will send the scientific data and photos back to NASA. If you're interested in seeing all the Jupiter photos placed for the public to see, they can be found in this archive above. It would be nicer if NASA had all the photos directly placed into this Jupiter archive rather than pick a few, edit them, and release them. NASA's Juno spacecraft captured a unique time-lapse movie of the Galilean satellites in motion about Jupiter. The movie begins on June 12th, with Juno 10 million miles from Jupiter, and ends on June 29th, 3 million miles distant. The innermost moon is volcanic Io. Next to it in line is the ice-crusted ocean world Europa, followed by massive Ganymede, and finally heavily cratered Callistio. Galileo observed these moons to change position with respect to Jupiter over the course of a few nights. From that observation, he realized that the moons were orbiting mighty Jupiter, a truth that forever changed humanity's understanding of our place in the cosmos. Earth was not the center of the universe. For the first time in history, we look upon these moons as they orbit and share Galileo's revolution. This is the motion of nature's harmony. Okay, so basically this was when Galileo, this is, Galileo, as you know, is one of those who was involved in the big conspiracy on how our planet was shaped and what have you. And, you can go read all about him. The fact of the matter is, now they're talking about Jupiter. Well, we haven't gotten to Mars. Our theories tell us we haven't even gotten to the moon. So what the heck are they doing out there? I know what it is. They just had great success with the movie The Martian. So every American, everybody here in this country at least, thinks that we can actually go to Mars and that the movie The Martian showed how it's done, because that's how gullible we are here in America when we see things in a video or a movie format. So now that that movie was successful, now they've come out with their own movie, a movie about Jupiter. And of course, we're supposed to believe this. So I guess that's what we should do. Believe it. Look, man, they went to Jupiter. Okay. Alien cover-up. Nearly 2,000 UFOs tracked by radar system, but details have been suppressed. Radar operatives patrolling the skies over the U.S. and Canada track an average of 1,000 UFOs every 5 years, it has emerged. This equates to around 360 UFOs officially tracked by radar each year, and as many as 75 to 15 per year have been intercepted, and as a result, according to information released by the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD. UFO investigators have hailed the statistics, proof that the UFO phenomena is real and taken seriously by military leaders, but there remains a veil of secrecy over what happened when they were intercepted, or if any have been confined as not coming from Earth, with national security reasons being cited. The figures were revealed to UFO investigators following a Canadian Access to Information Act request, but the officials refused to release any further idea or search specific details about individuals' UFO interceptions. Canadian UFO expert Victor Vigiani requested information on the tracking and intercepting of UFOs by NORAD, and after obtaining secret documents which detail the case of jets being scrambled to 3 UFOs. A response from NORAD said that requests for these unknown track reports are classified and cannot be released on grounds of national security and espionage. Okay, so here's a funny thing. National security, okay? They're citing that they can't release these things because of national security. Okay. NASA's saying they cannot, NORAD says they can't release this because of national security. But yesterday, we were told from Hillary that she violated national security. And Hillary's telling us she's going to let us know about extraterrestrials. But Comey let us know that people who have done the things that she have done, violating national security, have had security clearances removed. So how is this woman who's violated national security, that has done the equivalent of those who've had their security clearances removed, going to deal with an issue that involves national security when she's probably not trusted to do so? She's not going to get that info. So it's just another case of how the people in political power are lying to you, lying to us, okay? Not just you, it's us. And here's one last piece here. Okay, take a look at this. NASA confirmed just discovered Earth has a second moon. So wait a minute. 2 stories ago, I told you about Jupiter. So they know all about Jupiter. They're studying Jupiter, but they're now just discovering that Earth has a second moon. Earth, which is right here. See, scientists don't know what's going out in space. They're just discovering we have a second moon, but then they're going to tell us that they know about Jupiter. You mean on their journey from Earth to Jupiter, they didn't happen to see the second moon? How does that work? Again, folks, it's a big facade. It's a big show that they're playing. There's plenty of evidence suggesting that the information from the Hubble telescope is doctored information, that perhaps it doesn't even exist, that there's other sources that are taking this pictures. NASA hires a lot of graphic artists, so it could be coming out of there. But again, how is it that They can tell us about Jupiter, but now they're just still figuring it about the Earth. Right. I wasn't born yesterday, and it wasn't the day before. It was long enough to understand that this is nonsensical information. But let's go with it, right? NASA has just declared that the Earth appears to have a second moon that has been orbiting around our planet for nearly a century. The second moon doesn't quite resemble the ones that we're used to seeing in the starry night sky. However, actually an asteroid that has been discovered in orbit around the sun that keeps it as a constant companion of Earth and will continue to do so for centuries. This new asteroid, called 2016 HO3, is too distant to be considered a true satellite of our planet, but is the best and most stable example of a near-Earth companion we've yet to come across. Since 2016, HO3 loops around our planet, but never ventures very far as we both go around the sun. We refer to it as the quasi-satellite of Earth, explained Paul Chados, manager of NASA's Center for the Near-Earth Object Studies at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. One other asteroid, 2013, followed a similar orbital pattern for a while over 10 years, but it has since departed our vicinity. This new asteroid is much more locked onto us. Our calculations indicate that 2016 HO3 has been a stable quasi-satellite of Earth for almost a century and will continue to follow this pattern as Earth's companion for centuries to come. Yet, despite our going to the moon, despite our going to investigate Mars, despite the fact that we're out there in deep, deep space taking these pictures, they've just now discovered that Earth has this asteroid / moon. Right. Sure it does. Sure it does. You see, they just want to keep us in the dark about the space program. Okay? They just want to keep us in the dark, and if you are paying attention, you'll see various inconsistencies to all of these stories. Now, I may be completely off the mark. You may say I'm absolutely out of my mind, and I'm just one of those people who's trying to pull things out of thin air that make sense to my reality. But the way I'm looking at this from an investigative standpoint, like a detective, simply tells me that if we're going to leave Earth's atmosphere, go out to Jupiter, even to Mars, and then to Jupiter, it seems on the way we would notice what's around the Earth. And the further we get away, the better chance we could have of seeing what's going on around the Earth. So it seems strange to me that in 2016, we're still discovering things about our own Earth, yet declaring that we understand things about other planets. Right. Right. All right, that's our UFO news for today. Stay tuned. I'll be back. We got some really good information.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake
I want to continue on because I know that I've got a lot to talk about and might get a little long-winded here. First thing we're going to do is let me jump over here, take a look at this. This is an article that came out today. It's in response to yesterday's occurrence. Yesterday, as we all know, the FBI Director Comey came out and made several statements. He spoke for about half an hour or so. During two-thirds of that time, he explained all of the things that Hillary Clinton had violated. How she had destroyed evidence, how she had, I forget how many chains of emails were in the classified or above range, 8 chains that he said that were classified. There were another 7 chains that were above classified, top secret. How she had done all this violation, how basically others who had done the same thing or less had security clearance removed, or even other sanctions or penalties against them, and yet she was going to be given a pass, and nobody can seem to understand why that is. Again, it's all part of the system of deception that's going on. Those in power actually think that they're above the law. They actually think that people aren't paying attention and are just going to go along with this. Well, this is a country that, though we have gone the way of corruption, we still understand the basic nature of the laws. So according to this FBI ruling, according to what they had to say, they've now set a precedent that if somebody didn't intend to do the crime, then it really isn't a crime, because that's what they ultimately led to, that even though that she did all of these things, they really didn't see a specific intent. But the very fact that she set up a server outside of the government sanctioned location for doing a server was an indication she was trying to do something other than to keep that information in the public eye. That in itself is an issue. Now, you don't even have to show intent from what I'm understanding and listening to professionals out there speak about. So there's something about this whole situation that is really a screwy situation, that she violated all these things. So what he's saying is that if a person didn't intend to do it, you know what I would do if I was a lawyer, and I hope to see this happens with lawyers across the country now, really stick it to the FBI, is if you had a client that was put in jail for an offense similar or less than Hillary, today I would be filing a counter lawsuit. And I would be filing that suit under the guise that my client, who is now in jail, didn't mean to do it. He wasn't intending to do the crime, it just sort of happened. And therefore, the FBI is going to have to be forced to deal with their very own logic that they used in this case. And once they realize that they can't allow all of these people out of jail because their lawyer is arguing that they didn't intend to do it, they'll realize that they have to apply the same degree of justice to Hillary. I mean, it seems to me that would be one way to go about it. I hope that there's more than just one way. I know that there certainly are. Here is one that I showed you briefly. It says it's happening. Texas governor calling for convention of states to rein in Washington. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is calling for a constitutional convention of the states to bring Washington politicians back in line with the rule of law and the spirit of the Constitution. If you're unfamiliar with what a constitutional convention is, it's pretty simple. Article 5 of the Constitution makes it clear that Congress has the power to amend Constitution by adding amendments. Most people understand that it is Congress and not the President. No matter how mightily his pen or phone may be, he writes the laws. In addition, however, Article 5 also gives the same power to amend the Constitution to the states. The states can convene, propose an amendment, and as long as there is a 3/4 agreement from the states, that amendment shall be ratified. The reason why this power of the states, although it is yet to be used, was added into the Constitution was to prevent an all-out government national government. Many of the founding fathers recognized the power that a centralized government could grant itself if left unchecked, and so provided an outlet for the states to do that power, Governor Abbott said. says the increasingly frequent departures from constitutional principles are destroying the rule of law foundation on which this country was built. He explains that the only cure to bring Washington back in line with the constitutional was to utilize the powers granted in Article 5. We are succumbing to the caprice of man that our founders fought to escape. The cure to these problems will not come from Washington, D.C. Instead, the states must lead the way. To that, I am adding another term to the agenda next session, another item to the agenda next session. I want legislation authorizing Texas to join other states in calling for a convention of states to fix the cracks in our Constitution. Okay, and some of the things to prohibit Congress from regulating activity that occurs wholly within state, to require Congress to balance its budget, all the lists here. Prohibit administrative agencies and the unelected bureaucrats that staff them from creating federal law, to prohibit administrative agencies and the unelected bureaucrats from preempting state law, to allow a two-thirds majority of the states to override a U.S. Supreme Court decision, to require a 7-justice supermajority vote for the U.S. Supreme Court decisions that invalidate a democratically enacted law, to restore the balance of power between the federal and state governments by limiting the former to the powers expressly delegated it to the Constitution, give state officials the power to sue in federal court when federal officials overstep their bounds, and to allow two-thirds majority of the states to override a federal law or regulation. Okay, so this is good. This is a sign of stepping up. This is a sign that someone is stepping up, which is important. We need to have this happening. Now, yesterday on the show, I talked about a pretty heavy issue, and I know that there are those out there who get a little bit upset when the topic is brought up. Bear with me. The topic I brought up and have discussed multiple times deals with Obama being a Muslim. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Not all Muslims are bad people. Not all Muslims are terrorists. As a matter of fact, we can look at the statistics that are provided to us from the intelligence sources around the world, and they will tell us roughly the amount of members of Islam that are dangerous. And they say that's within the range of 10 to 20%. So that means if we take the 10% number, that means 90% are not a problem. And that's great. That's what we hope a civilization to be, non-problematic. They simply want to live in the world. They want to assimilate. They want to enjoy the understanding of the Creator as they do, and that be enough. However, that 10% of that group, 10% of a group that is 1.25 billion, comes out to 120 million. Okay? So the small percentage of the group that are problem makers are in the 120 million range. 120 million bad people that want to go out into the world and cause problems, blow people up because they don't believe in the same way that they do. That's problematic. And when these 120 million people are trying to sneak into other countries through systems that bring good people into countries like the refugee and the immigration systems, there becomes a problem. Because now those bad guys have given the good guys a bad name. So it's unfortunate that we have to look closely at those coming from these Muslim countries, but that's just the way it is. You see, 100% of the Muslims aren't terrorists. However, on the flip side, 100% of the terrorists are Muslims. Therefore, we really need to take an issue with how we are bringing people into this country and making sure that as people are coming in, we're not letting people in that want to harm us, because that would make no sense. It doesn't make sense to allow people in from another country that want to come in and kill Americans because they don't agree with their politics, or because they don't agree with their lifestyle choices, or because they don't agree with who they are just simply as a person because they have a different viewpoint. That would not make sense to allow them in, any more than it doesn't make sense to allow people to come in from other countries and then skip ahead of those who are going through the process to legally become an American citizen. Some people are taking many years to go through that process. And when those sneak across and then cut in line, that makes no sense. It's not fair. Now, we all have a basic sense of understanding and fairness, and so we should be able to understand this. If we don't, then there's a problem. There's a real problem. You see, left and right, they argue with each other all the time. I'm better than you because I'm on the right. No, I'm better than you because I'm on the left. And then when one side becomes in power, they accept all the things that they said were bad when the shoe was on the other foot, and then when it switches, the other side does the same thing. See, everybody's tolerant of the policies as long as they're helping them. But once they're not helping them, those same policies that they allowed themselves to be tolerant about, they're no longer tolerant about because now they're in power, and so it doesn't apply anymore. And that's our problem. We get divided left and right, and then we get in these issues and we allow ourselves to be controlled by organizations and persons that aren't even elected to be able to control us. And policies are being created. So I brought that up because that's part of the problem. We have a Muslim terrorist in office. I presented plenty of information. Go look on the playlist, the YouTube playlist I have. Go to my Facebook page, First Contact Radio. Go through. Just start watching. Just start watching what's there and then make some decisions for yourself. It's pretty evident once you look at it. A friend of mine the other day, I showed him this video about Obama admits he's a Muslim. And his first reaction when I said we're going to watch this was, oh, really? Didn't want to watch it. Didn't want to be bothered with the topic. I said, look, give me 9 minutes and 57 seconds of your life. Sit down and watch this. So he did. Halfway through, he started showing some displeasure in what he was seeing. Before it was over, he was talking to the television screen. By the time it ended, when I asked him, I said, what do you think? I said, wow, that's pretty much in your face. He's been praising and talking about how great Islam and Muslim is a little bit more than I like. And he started realizing that what has been said about Obama was accurate. And when you start looking at that and realizing that, you want to smack yourself and say, how come I haven't noticed that before? He's been wearing a ring that says Allah is the only God. Okay? Christians don't wear those rings. Buddhists don't wear those rings. Atheists don't wear those rings. You know who wears rings that say Allah is the only God? Muslims. Okay? He is a Muslim. And that's not a problem being a Muslim. But he happens to be in that 10% of one of the Muslim terrorists. And the people that are in the White House that he's bringing in are also part of these terrorists. But they're more like white-collar terrorists because they're sneaking in. They're not on the front lines, out doing the physical things. They're doing things in ways legally to let people into the country, people that want to do bad things. So those members of that 10% group are helping other members of that 10% group. Remember, 10%. Let's say, as they want in America to bring 100,000 refugees in. Let's say 10% of that group, 10,000, are extremists that want to hurt Americans. 10,000. America has 10,000 refugees pour into the country that are extremists. These 10,000 spread out to all 50 states. What's that? 10,000 divided by 50? What is that? 200? That means there can be 200 jihadis in each of the 50 states. How do you think that America would do if they decided to activate all at one time 10,000 jihadis in the United States? That could be problematic, couldn't it? Could be very problematic. So therefore we need to pay attention because it's not the 90% of the Muslims we're concerned about. We're glad that they like America. We're glad that they want to be a part of what this is about. It's the 10% we're concerned about, the 10% of the Islamists that we're concerned about that want to cause problem, the small percentage of the black community that wants to cause a problem, the small percentage of the white community that wants to cause a problem, the small percentage of the Asian community that wants to cause a problem, the small percentage of the Mexican community. You see, most of the people in all these groups are peaceful and want peace, but it's a small percentage of each group that give the rest of the group a bad name. And if we don't learn to separate who the bad guys are from the good guys, we're going to have a real problem. We've already been fooled, and we're going to continue to get fooled. Now, I'm going to turn attention to how this takes place, that we are deceived in the way that we are. We receive information, and we take that information and we process that information, and then we make decisions based on the information that we process. Over the years, we've found that we have similar sources that we go to for information. And this is exactly what the powers that be knew. You see, as the country left, as the United States left Great Britain didn't like that. They wanted to keep America with them. So they were continuing to find ways to reach out and control them. Control them without them knowing, even though they thought they were free. And so there were these think tanks and these groups that broke out and occurred within these foreign countries. The Rothschilds were part of these groups. The Illuminati's connected in with these groups. Various different think tanks. Cecil Rhodes and his groups. And all of these groups developed. And as they broke into mindset groups and think tanks, one of these groups ended up having an American version of it called the Council on Foreign Relations. The Council on Foreign Relations was created for purpose, to create and I'm quoting here, says to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. They were made up of the ruling establishment in the U.S., and their attempt is to create policy, but not policy through political means, but to create policy through the media. Okay, to create policy through the media. What is the media? The media is the information that we receive on a daily basis from news programs, from television programs, from radio programs. In all of these cases, I'm using the term programs. What is a program? Well, when somebody sits down at a computer to tell that computer what to do, they are creating and writing or working with a program. Programming is what is due when you want to program something to behave a certain way. So as we turn on a television or one of these sources of information, they are sending out to you programming intended to program you and all of the viewers or listeners to behave in a certain way. It's that simple. So here is the Council on Foreign Relations. This is an article here over at the Waking Times. It says the illusion of choice. 90% of Americans. Media controlled by 6 corporations. It is worth repeating again and again that the bulk of America's mainline media, mainline being the main bit of information that America's received, is controlled by mere 6 corporations. This, of course, means that unless you're already consciously avoiding these mainline media sources, then most of the news and the entertainment that makes its way onto the screen and into your mind comes from a small pool of corporate sources, all of which play important roles in delivering propaganda, social programming, and perpetual crisis narratives to the public. So here's the 6. General Electric, News Corporation, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. All are corporations that have their own shady histories, dealings, and suspicious actors. Disney being widely regarded as an occult enterprise aimed at warping the minds of children with disturbing subliminal imagery. One of the companies is also on the 12th largest U.S. military defense contractor, so it's no surprise that so much of our entertainment centers around the glorification of war and violence. By surveying what is available for consumption in the mass media, it's easy to see what type of society these 6 corporations are helping to construct. They have a power to warp reality by calling stage shows reality shows, ideas which don't support mainstream narratives, and the consumer agendas are omitted, and stories about independent people overcoming strife with dependence on government are seldom, if ever, evaluated. the promotion of shallow, materialistic, egocentric values, and the obvious dumbing down of the American population is coming from these six corporations. Think about that. These are the companies that glorify consumption, obedience, ignorance, the hypersexualization of youth, the glorification of war and government surveillance, and so on. The advertisers that support these media companies have tremendous sway over what makes it on the airwaves. They help to control public perception. The bottom line is that corporate media is the behemoth of special interest and mind controllers. So much of the human story is omitted in this capitalistic for-profit environment scheme like this, which is why now more than ever the independent alternative media is such a gem for the human mind. The infographic below was produced in 2011 by frugaldad.com, and although there have been some changes to the information since then, the landscape of American media is well represented here. Compared today to 1983, when the industry was occupied by some 50 independent media companies. Okay, so according to this graphic here, shows these are the six companies: GE, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. First thing to know about these companies, these are all mainline or mainstream media. It's the main bit of information that people are getting. Now, if you turn on a show like Fox, which is of the News Corporation, and the News Corporation is one of these mainstream programs right here, okay? Fox tells you, oh no, we're not mainstream. They are lying their ass off to you. They are the definition of mainstream. But people will say, oh no, Fox isn't mainstream. They tell us they're not mainstream. They're as mainstream as you can get. They're connected to one of the top 6 companies that are running the information. 232 media executives control the information diet of 277 million Americans. That's one media executive for every 850,000 subscribers. Okay, the big 6 control 90% of your cable, 70% of the cable. We've got the news is controlled, 178 million readers. News Corporation owns the top newspapers on 3 continents. Clear Channel owns 1,200 radio stations. Okay, the movie studios, they're all controlled. So everything's controlled. The media is controlled. When you turn on the television to watch the media, if you think that you are getting information that is there to inform you, I hate to tell you this, but you're not. And if you think you are, you're not. Every single day I watch people turn the media on, the news, and they think that they're being told the truth. Sometimes I tell people every single day the same story that I'm about to show you here. I don't know how we keep forgetting this. 1917, that's just about 100 years ago. J.P. Morgan bought U.S. corporate media to be 1% lying sacks of spin. Here's a great video. It's a multi-series set. It's all about the Council on Foreign Relations. Congressman Oscar Galloway lost his congressional election for the U.S. entry into World War I. Before he left office, he demanded investigation into J.P. Morgan and Company for purchasing control of America's leading 25 newspapers in order to propagandize U.S. public opinion in favor of his corporate and banking interests, including profits from U.S. participation in the war. Mr. Calloway alleged that he had the evidence to prove Morgan's associates were working as editors to select and edit articles, with press receiving monthly payments for their allegiance to Morgan. Okay, so basically, I'm leaving this article here so you can go through it. Basically, in 1917, J.P. Morgan, who wanted to, let's go right up here, it's 1917, J.P. Morgan wanted to make sure that the information of Americans were controlled. So they purchased, first he had an advisory board find out how Americans were being influenced, and they purchased the 25 largest media outlets, and he placed an editor from his organization that he could control, that worked for him, under or as the head of each of these 25. So there were 25 editors for the top 25, all taking their marching orders from J.P. Morgan and the organization that was formed, that was an extension of an organization that came from overseas called the Council on Foreign Relations. That was in 1917. They haven't relinquished their control. They've only gained more control over the years. So, every day when you turn on the television set, just remember that any of the program you put on is more likely, especially if it's mainstream program, it's more likely than not that it is controlled media. It is being told to you to get you to move in a certain direction, to make certain decisions. All of the media is like that. If you flip from channel to channel, you'll be able to see how they work. Fox, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, they all will tell you bits and pieces of a story. Some appear to be on one side of an issue, some appear to be on the other side. But they're all like sheepdogs, leading you to the same pen, leading Americans to the same place. Those on this side have to be pushed along in one way, those on this side have to be pushed the other way. Everybody eventually gets to the same pen and wonders, how did we all get to the same location? Because there's the same controlling interests that are pushing everybody there. It's 2016, my friends. It's been 100 years since they've been controlling the media. How many times do we need to remind ourselves that our media has been controlled for 100 years, and every time we turn that box on, we're looking at something that's controlled? How many times do we need to remind ourselves of that till we finally get it? Now we apply this to our understandings of what's taking place in the world. We have a president who's a Muslim, but the controlled media, who's controlled behind the scenes by the same ones who are controlling politics, certainly aren't going to tell us that, because those behind the scenes have an agenda that they want to express into the world. And so if they're going to have their agenda, they're going to use their arm of media to push propaganda upon the people to get people thinking the way that they want. Therein lies our challenge and our problems. Here's one. The CFR control of major media sources. The major media conglomerates are all members of the Council on Foreign Relations, which precludes any of its media members from accurately or honestly reporting the news. Since all of the CFR members have sworn their allegiance to the CFR and its New World Order agenda, the mainstream media rarely mentions the CFR, making it difficult to fully gauge its influence. When it is mentioned in the press in a controversial matter or incident, its role is likely whitewashed as trivial or irrelevant. Historically, the global elitists' plans to acquire control of the media can be traced back to 1915. U.S. Congressman Oscar Callaway provided historical perspective of their plans in 1917. Said in 1915, March, J.P. Morgan's interest, the steel shipbuilding and powder interest, and their subsidiary organizations got together 12 men high up in the newspaper world and employed them to select the most influential newspapers in the United States, and sufficient number of them to control generally the media and the daily press. They found it was necessary, only necessary, to purchase control of 25 of the greatest papers. An agreement was reached. The policy of the paper was bought to be paid for by the month. An editor was furnished for each paper to properly supervise and edit information regarding questions and preparedness, militarism, financial policies, and other things of national and international nature considered vital to the interest of the purchasers. By gaining ownership of this influential print media nearly a century ago, the global elitists were able to assure that they would maintain control of the information flow to the masses, to the common people, for decades to come. Today, they control the 6 or 7 mass media conglomerates that in turn own or control all of the major TV and radio station syndicates, the print media, including newspapers, the educational books used in our schools and our universities, the book and magazine publishers, the major internet service providers, music, video, and recording companies, the Hollywood film industry, which accounts for the increase in obscenity, pornography, and violence in filmmaking. Okay? So there's more to this article. As you are watching any of these programs, first of all, keep watching them because this is how we understand what the lie is being told. We need to be aware. But we want to watch them with a discerning eye so we can tell when they're lying to the people. We want to understand why they are telling this particular story to the people. What is the agenda? And once we start asking that a question to find out what the agenda is, we can determine what it is. It becomes very evident. Okay? It's just like the Obama Muslim thing. When you sit down and you see the compilation videos that have been put together of all the times that he has talked about being Muslim, suddenly it all makes clear sense. Because when he's talking and he just throws out one statement here or one statement there, those statements get lost in everything else he's saying. But when somebody takes and they collect all the times he has said it, you start to realize he makes a regular habit of praising Islam. He makes a regular habit of talking about things that are important to someone of an Islamic nature and not important to Americans. And you start to realize this man is not acting in our interests, and the people that he has surrounded himself are also of the same mindset like he is. So therefore, we need to fix the problem. The only way we fix the problem is when the people take control. We have forgotten that the people are the ones who are in charge. We've given power to the federal government, but they're power hungry. And therefore, the people have to take that power back. This is our land. It's we, the people, is what the Constitution says. Not the government, we, the people. Here's a few other things that are important. 6 secrets they don't want you to know. Even the dumbest person knows that the world is controlled by certain individuals. Some say they are the richest families. Some say secret organizations with members posing as a president's right hand. Some even say that aliens in disguise. The truth is, no matter who is, the 99% is controlled by the 1%, and there are things that the 1% would be happy if the 99% never found out about. But be it that it may, Murphy's Law still stands even for those individuals who steer the wheel. As the law says, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. People with humanity still in their hearts leak some information. People who see things as they really are revealed conspiracies, and some with little logic still in the head discover the hidden truth from the 99%. Here are some of the greatest secrets they don't want you to know of. They control the Earth's environment. Okay, you've heard of HARP program. You've heard of these various ways in which we manipulate weather. You've probably heard of the High Frequency Auroral Research Program, a project funded by the U.S. Navy and Air Force, and it's covering technology that can allow the U.S. military to communicate with its fleet of submarines through very long distances. Okay, however, it manipulates the ionosphere. It's technology that initially came from the Tesla mind, and it's being used. The military manuals talk about weather wars. Tap water makes you poor. There's absolutely no need for fluoride in tap water. Well, for us, but for the ones who want to control the world, who want to make sure no one rises above them, fluoride in tap water is the essential element. It says why. Fluoridation was recommended by Edward Bernays, nephew of Sigmund Freud. Mind manipulation is written all over their foreheads. Fluoride is a chemical that has an effect on the pineal gland of our brains, sometimes called the third eye. This gland is responsible for a majority of our emotions as well as serotonin and melatonin level. Fluoride damages this gland and promotes apathy, depression, and low vibrations. The results are lack of motivation, bad health, and boredom. To survive in the world today, we must earn money by necessary things like food, water, shelter, medicine. Okay? Chemtrails. They don't want us to know about chemtrails. They're spraying us with things like fluoride in them. So if we're not getting fluoride in the water, they're getting it to us in another way, as well as other chemicals. When you look up in the sky and you say, look, a contrail, you may be wrong. It may be a chemtrail. Don't worry, it's nothing. It's just some guy spraying you with aluminum, arsenic, barium, boron, and yes, fluoride. Why? Because you ask too much. Now shut up. Keep doing what they tell you. GMOs are destroying humanity. They don't want you to know that because they make money off of the GMOs, and all they want is to make money. GMOs are plants or animals created through the genetics splicing techniques of biotechnology. This experimental technology merges DNA from different species, creating unstable combinations of plants, animals, bacterial, and viral genes that cannot occur in nature or in traditional crossbreeding. They don't want us to know about sacred geometry, so all of this is hidden behind the ideas of the word occult. Don't look at the cult. Don't look at the things that are hidden. But Jesus said to look at the things that are hidden. Who should we listen to? Our government or Jesus? I'm going to go with Jesus, who said to seek and find, seek out the hidden things. So here they're wanting to hide from us the idea that sacred geometry is the language of the universe. What is beauty? Victoria's Secret angels? I know, but what is the definition of beauty? The combination of elements like shape, color, size that pleases the sense of sight. But we know that music has a beauty too. Smell also. So if you ask me, I would say that beauty is a harmony between elements and forces. Sacred geometry is found where elements meet the golden ratio and exist through all the universes between gravity of planets, nature, design of flowers, shape of animals, proportions of land, crop circles, etc. It also exists in many man-made objects or famous artworks like Da Vinci's works or Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, Greek and Roman architecture, etc. So why is this kept a secret? Well, like a magic show, we find magic in things at the golden ratio, but we don't know how or why. The magician knows the trick in order to manipulate the audience. Nobody else knows about it. And finally, music makes you competitive. You know that the 1955 International Standardization Organization made 440 hertz a general standard tuning for musical pitch. Before that, it was 432. As you know, sound has the biggest impact in our thinking. 432 makes the sound of music more harmonious, calm, promotes happiness and deep understanding, passion. 440 is more energetic, faster, and is also like racing. It is more competitive and focusing on the details, the understanding of the things we can see. So why would someone, more importantly, now decide that 440 is better than 320, 432? Because music teaches us where nothing else can, where the essence of our emotional being is. And if you control what emotions, thoughts, and music promotes, then your work of controlling the world is 99% done. They don't want people to understand our true nature and our higher self. They want us to be in a hurry, to believe that what we see and to be competitive about material things. This way, the 99% will live in the reality that the 1% create for them. And therein lies the whole issue. See, whether it's the media control or political, whatever it is, it's 1% of the population trying to control the other 99%. And they're controlling it through the information we receive. Because we all receive information, we make decisions based on our information. You know, there were polls done in the past which questioned people who watched mainstream media and those who did not. And these particular polls were wanting to know if a person that didn't watch any of the mainstream, where they fell in line with their understanding of things compared to those who did. And it was determined that those who watch mainstream media on a regular basis are less informed about world events than those who don't even watch it at all. Now, how could that be? How could somebody who doesn't even watch it have a little better understanding? Because if they're not watching it, they're not getting all the lies and the propaganda. That's what you're getting when you're watching the mainstream. Do you think that when CNN suddenly goes over and they shows their analysts at the Pentagon, do you think that's really the chain of how information goes? From the battlefield to the PR person in the Pentagon to the general public? Listen, don't tell any members of ISIS if they're listening to this program. But this is what we at the Pentagon are doing. Here's our game plan. Shh, Don't tell anybody. But we're going to attack at 5 o'clock. Okay? At 5 o'clock we're going. But don't tell anybody. Do you think that's how that works? Do you think that they go on and they express their plans? No. These are all covert organizations. So when you're watching something and suddenly Fox or CNN or MSNBC jumps over to the Pentagon or the CIA or one of these, guess what? You're getting a load of BS. You're getting a story that's intended to make you look the other way. What's the oldest trick in the book? Hey, look over there. That's what we do all the time. Hey, look over there, and we look. Look over there, it's Caitlyn Jenner. Look over there, it's the Kardashians. Look over there, it's this happening. Look over here, this is happening. And we keep looking, and we keep falling for it. The tricks that are being done against the American people by the 1% are not new tricks. It's the same trick over and 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 over again. At least for the last 100 years. You know why they keep doing the same trick? Because it works. Because Americans have been fooled so well by that one trick that they don't need to run another trick. They don't. It's like a sports team that has one play, and they go out, and for years they're beating the other team using only one play. We as Americans need to understand this. More and more people are, but there's still a lot of people that are still unaware. So I'm going to keep talking about these things that I see. And I'm not going to worry about if somebody has an issue with them. Oh, that's problematic because it doesn't fit in with the reality that they've been told. Because I feel like I've been one of those who've had an opportunity to look behind the curtain. Because there have been those out there who have done research that I've been able to come across and then cross-reference and confirm with other places. So I'm standing on the shoulders of those who came before that did research because of people who came before them, and vice versa, and so on and so on. And so as we keep sharing this, as we keep talking about this, we're going to get smarter. Like I say, once Americans realize that the man in the White House is not on our side, suddenly everything that he's doing will become crystal clear. It will make sense. But as long as Americans are still trying to figure it out, we're going to be lost. The man's a Muslim terrorist. He wants this country to be infiltrated and run over, which is why in his last correspondence meeting, he was so proud when he stated that the fall of the Republic never looked better. He is fulfilling the purpose for which he came, to destroy America, and all the while, many Americans are cheering because they don't understand who and what he's about. They've been fooled. Again, fooled. You would think that in 622 that we would have learned from history to say that, hey, wait, Muhammad and his group snuck into other countries under the guise of being refugees and then went and infiltrated. You would think that we would be smart enough to look back in history and say that they're doing the same thing now, but somehow we've not. Somehow we've decided to turn a blind eye to that. That was so far in the past, it doesn't matter. It does matter, folks. It matters because it's right now hurting our country. It's tearing us apart. We need to come together very, very quickly. We no longer, as Americans, have time to sit back and allow this just to unfold without our participation, because that's what has occurred up till now. We need to participate in some way. People ask, how do I participate? Number one way, communicate. Communicate with others. Share this information with others. Because first and foremost, this is an information war. Okay? The mainstream media is locked up. But there are many channels out there that we have outside of the mainstream media. Nobody's controlling me on what I say. It's my job, however, when I look at the information that's out there, to decipher what is controlled and what isn't. And there's a lot of information getting through the cracks that isn't controlled. And so I, like many others, are looking to find that information and share it. And once we find it, we have to keep sharing it. Sharing this information so that we have the information about what's really going on so we can make better decisions. that simple, my friends. We have to wake ourselves up from this illusion, from the state of hypnosis that is taking place. We need to wake ourselves up. Otherwise, we're going to be in a whole world of hurt. Look what happened yesterday. Look how the rule of law was absolutely subverted. We haven't heard the end of this, not by any means. We haven't heard the end of this. There's a lot of really upset people, people who want to do something about it, one of which is the governor calling for it, the constitutional conventions, state conventions. So let's see how this unfolds. In the meantime, keep informing yourself, keep sharing this information with others, and be fearless about it. Don't worry about what Facebook is going to tell you and their threats. Don't worry about threats from YouTube. Don't worry about threats from your government, because that's what they do. They try to threaten you to shut you down. They try to threaten you to keep you from speaking your piece. Your friends do it that don't agree with you. Don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid to speak your piece, to speak your mind. And if people don't like it in this day and age and they tell you you've said something that offended them, so what? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me, right? That's a phrase we used to know. So, when people tell you, oh, you just said something that had offended me, well, who cares? You've said things that have offended me. We all get offended by each other. Let's put that offense aside, because the offended part is just an emotional reaction to something emotionally hitting us. So if we put that armor of God on and we're not thinking like a victim, but we're acting fearlessly, we're not going to be offended, because we're going to be in a different state of mind, that those offensive statements just bounce off us and we realize there's no power in those words. They're meaningless words that are simply meant to discourage. So don't be discouraged. Speak. Share. We're all in this together. And quite frankly, if there's people out in the world who are unaware of what's going on or making stupid decisions, quite frankly, the people who are paying attention kind of need to step up to help them. If the members of the LGBT community don't understand that Hillary Clinton is inviting people into the country, wants to invite people in and bring them in that want to kill them, if the members of the community don't understand that, then those of us who do understand, we have to step up to save them from themselves. Because by themselves, they just want to invite people in that are going to kill them, which is stupid. So those people aren't in the right frame of mind. So they need to be saved from themselves, because they've drunk the Kool-Aid. They've bought into the lies. Buy into the lies are only going to cause us to die. Here's a message from Archangel Gabriel.
Gabriel Daily Message Tuesday, July 5th, 2016 by Shelley Young. Dear ones, when you bump up against an obstacle in your life you can't seem to find your way around, give it up. Give it to God, give it to the universe, give it to the angels. Allow your guides and helpers to show you potentials you never would have thought of, to lead you beyond it, to gently guide you with love and care to your best outcome. That is what we are all here for, to serve you, guide you, and assist you, and it is always our greatest joy to do so. Archangel Gabriel.
Okay. It brings us to our meditation. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Take another deep breath. And exhale again. I just want you now to imagine that you're walking down a path, the path of life, and you see life happening all around you. And as you see life happening around you, you see a story unfolding. A story unfolding that involves all of the persons that are on this earth. And as you look at that story and you hear the words that are being told and the images that are being used to support that story, we begin feeling that something is not quite right. And so we rub our eyes, and after we rub our eyes and blink them a few times to open and look around, we see things change around us, that the vibrations around us shift as if there's a glitch in the matrix. And as we focus more and more on seeing what this glitch is that is occurring, we find that the illusion completely dispels, and we are now able to see clearly. Just like Rowdy Roddy Piper when he put the sunglasses on. He could now see clearly what was taking place in the world. And when he takes the glasses off, he sees the illusion that is being presented. So we now are able to see the world from this place of clarity. And we see a great illusion being cast upon the people. And we understand that this illusion is spread through the media that people see and listen to every single day. And so as we walk down the street, we walk up to everyone we see and we touch them on the shoulder and we tell them, wake up, wake up. And one by one we see individuals slowly waking up from the illusion as well. So pretty soon everybody on the street around you is seeing clearly. And as people are seeing things clearly, people realize they need to make a different decision, because the illusion has led to all people standing at the edge of a cliff ready to fall off. And so we turn around away from the cliff and we see those in the distance creating the illusion. And so we turn our focused energy of clarity towards them. And as we shine light upon their lies begin to dissipate even more. Till one by one members of this group who are creating the illusions begin to wake up to the reality of what they were doing. And those who were just going along stop doing so because they realize, and those who are part of the intentional act of this forming, they find themselves dissipating into nothingness. Till one by one all of those causing problems disappear, as if a magical force removes them from the planet. And so as we make our way through the world, we realize that each and every one of us has the power to change simply by sharing what it is that we know of the truth that we discover. So let our subconscious mind continue on this journey. Let us find a way to tame that beast within through the creative imagination. And in doing so, let us dispel the illusion that is cast over all. So let the subconscious mind continue on that journey. And let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3 coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2 coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1 coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale and open your eyes. Okay, my friends, that is it for today. Thank you so much for being here. Look, we have a great opportunity before us. The great Creator is cheering for us, cheering for us to overcome all of the challenges, to rise to the occasion. We simply need to trust that creative power of God that flows through each and every one of us. And when we do, we find that the world changes. And as we do, we understand that those who are involved with creating this illusion, for the most part, have pushed that spirit of God out of their lives, which is why they are willing to allow others and tell others to push it out of theirs as well. So by simply interjecting that spirit of God back into the conversation, it changes the way in which they have to deal with things. Because then the powers that be, have to deal with the reality that God is the reality. God is the reality. And all we have to do is bring forth that which is real to dispel that which man is trying to tell us is real. We got God and we got man. Who are we going to believe? That's a no-brainer. Simply believe God. And man will learn his lesson in due time. We just need to trust the creative source that flows through us. That's it. Each and every one of us has a responsibility to ourselves and to our Creator. So let's go forth into the world and let's bring forth the truth of divinity, the truth of God, the truth of our nature as free beings upon this planet. And let's disregard all else that is illusionary to that process and to that mission. Thanks for being here. Go back, watch the videos, watch that Council on Foreign Relations. It's a multi-part series. Watch it, read the articles. Once you get it, I'm telling you, it'll change everything once you understand who's controlling things. It frees you up. The truth will set us free. That's it, my friends. I love you. Keep loving each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.